Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, we get an update on one of Indiana's most powerful economic engines. Digital advertising turns upside down in the era of COVID. A Jasper County company aims to upskill Indiana inmates. First Merchants' longtime leader is moving on. How will COVID-19 factor into flu season? We get a progress report on Hoosier High School fall sports. And what is the future of human work in the age of smart machines? Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Over the past 15 years, the River Ridge Development Authority has pumped more than $100 million into the transformation of empty fields and abandoned military structures into a thriving commercial district. Now huge investments and hundreds of jobs are pouring into the River Ridge Commerce Center. One Southern Indiana president, Wendy Dant Chesser, joined Inside Indiana business host Gary Dick to talk about what's next.
Many know in Southern Indiana, but perhaps not the rest of the state, River Ridge is really one of the state's most important economic development projects. And late in the week here, you received a bit of breaking news, some international recognition for River Ridge Commerce Center.
So River Ridge has been under redevelopment construction since 1998, and the International Economic Development Council just this week awarded River Ridge with its Gold Award in the Real Estate Redevelopment and Reuse category, just recognizing all of the impact that River Ridge is having in terms of the economy here in Southern Indiana.
Wendy, again, to kind of put a bottom line on this is a former Army property, 6,000 acres. Talk about what River Ridge really is all about and what it's being transformed into.
Well, until you see it, it's really hard to get your arms around it. But what we had was 6,000 acres that we knew needed some investment. And as you mentioned, as that investment is starting to be made to clean up the property, it's attracting the attention of a lot of folks who are trying to grow their companies. And we're standing in line saying, come pick us. We think we've got a great product to sell.
And if you look at location as an example, there in the Jeffersonville area along the Ohio River, right across from Louisville, there's the UPS World Port in Louisville, the Ohio River, the Port of Indiana, Jeffersonville as well, and the brand new Ohio River Bridges project is kind of all things coming together to make this a very sellable project.
Absolutely, and we're in the middle, or we're on the edge, if you will, of a 1.2 million population MSA. And so as people look at all of the amenities that we have to draw from, they see our asset and they recognize it for the product that it is, and it's easy to sell it.
I think it's important to note, too, obviously we're in the midst of the pandemic, and that has had an impact on business and industry and community, so many things across the board. But as we were talking off camera, you're seeing the deal flow there actually increase.
This pandemic has picked some winners and losers in the economy. We are fortunate that when we look over history and over the last 10 years or so, we typically manage between 18 and 22 active projects in our pipeline. That's been very consistent over the last 10 years. As of today, we have 32 active projects, and some of those are new companies looking to come into the area. Others are existing companies that are taking this time to look at expansion opportunities. So our challenge right now is just turning all 32 of those projects into wins for us.
Yeah, a lot of big names already there, nearly 11,000 employees, Amazon, Tenneco, GE as well. A lot of talk about regional economic development around the state. Is this a project that you're looking at regionally to bring in Louisville and the Louisville region?
Absolutely. River Ridge is a regional asset. We're very fortunate it's located in Clark County. But it is a regional asset, and as companies are looking at where they could come into our region to fulfill their goals and their dreams, we have a really great product to sell. We jokingly say that we are 20% of the population, but 80% of the opportunity, and that hasn't been as much of a joke lately. We're realizing that real potential.
Yeah, only have about 30 seconds left, Wendy, but as you look to the next 5 to 10 years and beyond, what do you see as the potential that River Ridge has, the impact on the region, on the economy and jobs?
We've been very heavy in industrial manufacturing and logistics companies at River Ridge, but I think with the groundbreaking of this office park, this is the first new Class A office structure built in Southern Indiana in my memory. What it does is it gives us an opportunity to look at some of those higher wage, jobs that are going to not only provide the office side, but also even research. So the goal is high for the Gateway project, and I believe that all of the partners that are here are committed to all of the long-term objectives to make sure that we maximize that impact.
Wendy Dent-Chesser is the CEO of One Southern Indiana. River Ridge Commerce Center has been talked about for a long time, coming to fruition and actually momentum building even during the pandemic. Wendy, it's always great to see you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
All right.
Indianapolis-based Pattern 89 is playing a big role in guiding where and how businesses spend their advertising dollars. The company analyzes more than 150 billion ad impressions to predict which ads perform best on social media. Founder RJ Tallier came on the show to talk about digital advertising during a pandemic.
Advertisers of all sizes and shapes always want to know, what's that return on investment? Is my advertising campaign, especially as it relates to social media, how does it work? Talk about the model there at Pattern 89 and what it's all about.
Yeah, well, every marketer is trying to figure out in a digital first world, what images or videos should they put out there? So they might say, well, we want to advertise to men and we want to put somebody in a blue shirt or a green shirt or a red shirt, and should they have glasses or no glasses? And every marketer typically uses an A/B testing approach, or they go with educated guesses, or they go with what was working last month or last year. Well, with artificial intelligence powered by Pattern 89, you can be over 95% accurate that you're making the right choice. And we typically deliver on average of 31% lift with our predictions. So what we do is predict what will work on paid social as well as in other channels. So it's been an exciting growth for Pattern 89, and excited to continue to grow.
Well, let's talk about that growth because you're just coming up on 4 years as a company, and you've got some pretty impressive growth numbers.
Thanks. We tripled the business last year, and in this year we're growing. We really outperformed in Q3, and we're looking to even double the business this year. We're up to over 24 employees, and our data set now has come from 1,600 different brands. We have almost 200 billion impressions worth of data and 49,000 different creative dimensions. So the growth is coming on the sales front, is on the people front, as well as on the technology and the AI front. And it's not looking like it's going to stop anytime soon. Instead, we're going to see continued acceleration. It's
innovation going on right here in Indiana. And RJ, I know you've raised some money too, raised a couple $1 million this summer. How are you putting that capital to work?
Well, our business is based on data science and on really hiring the brightest in developing AI and engineering, and we continue to grow there. We also have expanded our go-to-market team, and we hired 3 new sales reps in July, and those sales reps have really overperformed for us, so we just hired 2 more, and we're continuing to grow with an eye towards diversity, equity, and inclusion, and proud to say that our business is 50% women, it's 25% Black and people of color, and we're going to continue to grow with technology as well as go-to-market teams, and make sure we're doing it in the right way that is in line with our beliefs.
You got quite a growth story even through the pandemic. 30 seconds left. Where do you see a Pattern 89 as you look to the future of the next 5 years plus? I mean, I'm sure you got a pretty optimistic outlook.
Yeah, absolutely. Marketers are always looking for more efficient ways to do to get results with their dollars. And in a digital first world, within the pandemic and beyond, marketers need AI to help drive key decisions. And that's where we come in. So we're really optimistic about the continued acceleration of Pattern 89.
RJ Tallier is the CEO at Pattern 89, another Indiana tech success story, really fueled by artificial intelligence. RJ, always great to see you. Congratulations on the success. We'll be following your story.
Each year, more than 20,000 ex-offenders are released from Indiana prisons, but many have trouble finding work on the outside, and that leads to a return behind bars for some. DeMont-based Gold Standard Trust is looking to reverse that dynamic. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redman has more.
Just pulling up to the facility, you see these tall fences, the razor wire. It's very daunting. Once we got in there and we got to hear the offenders and hear their stories, they're people just like everybody else. And we want to give them an opportunity.
And that's precisely what DeMott-based Gold Standard Trust is doing at Westville Correctional Facility.
They gave us a tour of the facility. It was like walking into any other manufacturing facility. There was guys just working and working and working. And I talked to one of the managers and I said, how many of these guys would you hire after they got released? And he said, probably 85 to 90%. And when I walked out, there's another building off to the side, and I asked the tour guide what was happening in there, and he said it was empty. And it just kind of clicked. A couple days later, we made the decision to partner up with IDOC.
The goal of this new joint venture partnership is to teach inmates valuable manufacturing skills that they can use once they leave prison. And at the new location inside Westville Correctional Facility, inmates will learn how to build trusses like this guy.
What Gold Standard Truss is doing, they're actually bringing in a truss manufacturing company. So they're bringing in state-of-the-art equipment, making a very good investment here in the state of Indiana.
And invest they did. Nearly $1.5 million, turning the once empty building on Westville prison grounds into a first-rate manufacturing facility about the size of a football field that will employ around 30 inmates beginning next month.
So is this what Westville will look like, the facility there?
Exactly. This is exactly the same setup, same everything.
So they'll be learning how to build walls, build roof trusses, and build floor trusses. We also intend to kind of expand that training program to framing carpentry itself. So actually how to then install what they've built and how to stand them up in the field, put them all together, and build a house.
When you walk into that facility at Westville, you would never know that you're actually behind the wall in a high maximum security prison setting. It's got the most modern technology inside of it to build the truss components. It gives them a sense of freedom is because they have a purpose.
One of the biggest challenges right now outside of the facility is finding a strong workforce that has a good work ethic. These guys are excited about the opportunity to come to work every day. The alternative is sitting in their cell. We looked at that dedication that we feel we're going to have from the workforce, and we really saw that advantage.
Another advantage, increased production volume.
So this Westville facility is really going to help you out in terms of meeting demand.
Yep. 100%.
It'll basically double our current production capacity. So it'll be about 8 million in capacity that we can run out of that plant.
When you give these people the tools they need while they're incarcerated, they have a very high success rate once they've been released. It could really help those businesses out across the state that are actually struggling to find people to work for them.
Giving them that opportunity to learn and to go back into the outside world and get a good job, be a good husband, a good son, a good father for future generations, and not end up back in prison.
Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
The longtime leader of Muncie-based First Merchants Corporation is hanging it up at the end of the year. Under Mike Reckon's watch, First Merchants grew from $3 billion in assets to $13 billion, with income growth to match. Reckon joined us to talk about what's next for him and the financial institution he has led for 13 years.
Mike, great to see you. Congratulations on the retirement.
Thank you, Gary. Really looking forward to our next chapter as a family, and looking forward to continuing to help First Merchants from a different seat, and really confident in the team we have in place.
Well, you've had quite a ride at First Merchants, and certainly you're one of the most recognizable names in the Indiana banking community. You was at National City prior to that for about a decade. But Mike, as you look at the growth, I mentioned that $3 billion to $13 billion in assets. What has really fueled the growth equation, if you will, at First Merchants?
Well, I think it's a unique environment in the state of Indiana and maybe throughout the Midwest, but clearly Indiana's been blessed with great leadership at the top, and it's fostered a great economic environment, and banking is a great conduit for getting capital to commercial enterprises. And so between that at the high level and the people that have seen fit to join our company and bring their talent, and the commercial companies willing to listen, it's just been a great chemistry and a lot of fun.
And you've, in a consolidating industry, you've been strategic, maybe aggressive to an extent, in going out and making some acquisitions too.
Yeah, we really have. One of the challenges for the business that then becomes an opportunity is developing and investing channels that give customers a chance to touch you, whether you're a consumer customer, commercial. You need to adapt your business model away from pure banking centers to online banking, mobile banking, the whole bit. And so that has seen other banking companies look for places where they might go and merge their strengths with yours, and we've benefited.
Yeah, technology certainly has changed the industry dramatically. What, in your view, as you look back on when you got into the industry and the things, the dynamics driving the industry now, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the banking industry in Indiana?
I think it's just been our clients open to change and then demanding change as to how they access your company. And so we've had to adapt our skill sets, kind of go to a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day accessibility for our clients. And keep up with the technology change is difficult. And I think that's why you've seen some consolidation in the industry.
Yeah. Only 30 seconds left, Mike, but what's next for you and your wife, Debbie? Hopefully you're going to stay in Indiana.
Absolutely. We came here from Ohio 25 years ago, have been welcomed by my teammates at the bank and every community throughout central Indiana. So yes, Hamilton County continue to be our home, and look forward to catching up with all of my friends, including you, Gary, over the next several years.
I'll look forward to it as well, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us here. Thanks for all you do, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary. Have a great day.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. As we head through the fall, many are wondering how COVID-19 will factor into flu season. Carmel-based Authentics, which provides healthcare professionals with conversational information from patients, has released data on what the main concerns are. Chief Executive Officer Amy Brown spoke with Barb Lewis in the Business of Health.
So you collected data from 45,000 people who are really kind of helping us all understand what people really want to know about this upcoming flu season, because we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So what were the responses? What are people concerned about?
Yeah, so our platform and our business is designed to listen to what is top of mind to customers when they call in to a customer service contact center. And we specifically listen to calls that come into healthcare companies. So you can think about pharmacies, health insurance companies, the doctor's office. Those are the types of interactions that we are listening to. And the things that are top of mind of those customers are things like, how does my normal behavior around protecting myself for flu, how does that look different than now that we have the pandemic going on? We learned from listening to customers over the last 6 months that some of their top questions were around how to protect themselves from actually contracting the virus, but also how does their risk for coronavirus change depending on their particular medication regimen that they might be on for their routine medical care. And so as we approach the flu season, we are hearing customers really wonder if they need to treat or behave differently than they have in the past about this flu season, just because of what we're all dealing with COVID.
Okay, so that really sounds like the risks, but there's always so many other concerns when it comes to healthcare, including trying to figure out if you can get your prescriptions on time and payment. So talk a little bit about how that information is, or how concerned people are about that right now.
Right. So one of the biggest things we saw change after March, after the pandemic hit, was we saw more and more customers who normally could afford their medical bills start to have challenges due to the economic factors that happened with regard to the pandemic. And so we have many more customers asking for businesses to offer flexible payment plans or to allow for some grace period of paying their bills. So what we're hearing customers say is, hey, company, I want and need to still do business with you. And yet I need you to meet me halfway, because life today looks very different for me economically than it did a few months ago. So that's number one, is customers are asking for companies to work with them. The other major concern that you mentioned, Barb, is supply chain related concerns. So we're hearing a lot of questions where customers are calling in to customer service and saying, hey, flu season's coming up. I have this medication that I've been taking for the last 5 years, but due to demand for vaccine or due to demand for the flu shot, is there any risk to me not being able to get my routine medications on time? And I know that with some of the challenges that we heard in March and April with supply chain concerns, with mail delivery, such a demand on that system, that there were some real delays in folks being able to get access to the medications they need. And so that very much is still top of mind. And they're asking companies, hey, do you have supply and do you have your supply chain figured out?
I'm trying to picture all these calls, and I know when I make a call, I'm long-winded and I'm telling them everything. So how do you take the information that you're getting from these calls and turn them into something that your clients can really act on?
Right. So Barb, you mentioned something that we can all relate to, and that is when we call any kind of customer service line, we hear when we start the call a kind of a robo voice saying this call may be recorded and monitored. And what happens though is companies often use those call recordings for a very limited purpose. They listen really for that call center agent and how effectively do they do at handling the customer's need. But what tends to get ignored from those call recordings is the insights that customers are giving the company without being asked. They're telling you what's top of mind, what their concerns are, what they wish the company would provide to them. And so when we take in those data sources in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands into our platform, we're able to really use natural language processing, AI, as well as deeper analytics in listening to those voices to help kind of put together key themes for leaders to understand, okay, of all these conversations, what are the top things that are top of mind that we can now as leaders take action on because we get what they need?
Okay, so it sounds like you really just give them, your clients, exactly what they need, and then it's up to them to say, this is how we're going to answer those questions and provide great customer service.
Well, our platform is designed to actually point the direction. Mm-hmm. So we surface themes through our reporting platform that helps leaders know, oh, okay, this is the problem I need to go target. Because it has to be actionable, right? Just keywords and understanding exactly what people are saying doesn't give enough context to know what actions to take. So we really work hard at Authentics to give leaders something that they can go take action from.
All right. Well, Amy, congratulations on a wonderful business, and thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Stay healthy out there.
All right.
Purdue University may be best known for its engineering, agricultural, and aerospace programs, but the university's Cornerstone Integrated Liberal Arts Certificate is considered by some to be a blueprint on how to reinvigorate liberal arts on campuses throughout the country. The National Endowment for the Humanities and the Teagle Foundation have committed $7 million to the initiative. Purdue College of Liberal Arts Chief Operating Officer Lori Sparger joined us with more in our Eye on Education segment.
So liberal arts at Purdue, as I mentioned, so well known for engineering and aeronautics, a land-grant institution, agriculture. But probably a lot of people don't realize there is a liberal arts program at Purdue.
That's right, there is. It's a liberal arts program both that serves students in our 40-plus majors, but also one that touches almost all of campus with courses that are delivered to students in written and oral communication across the entire campus.
And really getting some national attention for those efforts. Talk about that, because your efforts in liberal arts to really transform that began in 2014.
That's right. In late 2014, there was a study done by the Board of Trustees that was looking at what courses students were taking before they graduated. And part of what they learned was that history, philosophy, and literature courses were not taken by the vast majority of students. And so when our new dean, David Reingold, started, part of what Mitch Daniels asked him to do was to look at that and figure out how to add breadth to the curriculum of students from all across the campus. And that's how the conversations started that have now become the Cornerstone program.
And this initiative, this effort that, again, as you say, began back in 2014, is now getting national attention. Talk about that, because a just announced initiative that Purdue is really going to serve as a model on a national scale.
Right. Yeah, it is a humbling experience for us that this program that we started really a very short time ago in terms of university life has been recognized by a federal agency as a model for how general education should be delivered. So Teagle Foundation was an early partner of ours in the initiative on campus. And now what they're looking at is ways of helping colleges and universities across the country think about Cornerstone as a model that they can build upon.
And really, as you look at, and it's going on all over the country, and that's rethinking, reinventing, if you will, higher education. I assume this is one example of where you're looking at higher education, looking at things in a different way.
I think it is. The university has a core curriculum, and there are certainly areas in which students have to take classes. But what we wanted to do was really provide a roadmap that was very purposeful for students, that is built on a series of themes that align with popular areas of study for which Purdue is very well known, that gives students a chance to take the discipline that they're studying and look at it from a different perspective, to be a student who is interested in a career in healthcare and medicine and is now taking courses that look at it from the perspective of the humanities and social sciences in ways that give them more breadth and develop their communication skills in ways that I think serve them very well.
And how does this play into the pandemic and what companies of all sizes are facing in terms of kind of reinventing themselves? How does this liberal arts focus perhaps fit into that equation?
Sure. I think for me, it's very interesting. All of us in the spring had to sort of reinvent how we did many things, how our employees worked, how we created our products, how we delivered our services. And I think central to doing that well is having leaders who have a breadth of knowledge, who have some historical context, who have the ability to problem solve in some creative ways. And I think Cornerstone is preparing our students for that. In some ways, things that you study when you're learning how to build a bridge can be very binary. If you build it this way, it will stand. If you build it that way, it may not. But I think what students learn in our classes is there's a lot of nuance in between, and that there are many, many situations throughout the history of time that are replicated, that happen over and over again, and that we can learn from. And I think bringing those kinds of people into an employment environment adds some perspective that's really helpful and allows for some really creative problem solving.
Cornerstone program in Purdue's College of Liberal Arts, yet another example of Purdue serving as a national model, and we'll be looking forward to following that as it goes along. Lori Sparger, the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Innovation Officer in the College of Liberal Arts. Lori, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
After COVID-19 wiped out much of spring sports for thousands of Hoosier high school athletes, the Indiana High School Athletic Association began work on a plan to get competitors back in action in the fall. Football, volleyball, tennis, soccer, cross country, and more have returned. IHSAA Commissioner Paul Neidig talks about how they pulled it off and looks ahead to winter sports with Bill Benner on Inside Indiana Sports.
The fact that we're talking about high school athletics, very, very encouraging. And again, as I mentioned, there have been postponements, some occasional issues, but remarkably, all the seasons and the various sports have unfolded pretty well.
You know, they have, and you know, if we could have anticipated what that was going to look like in the summer, I think this is what we thought it was going to be. This is what we hoped it was going to be, and it certainly been that way. We've had about 95% of our teams have played week in and week out. And the reality of it is we've had more teams available to play. They just weren't able to make a matchup work, whether it be geographically or school size or whatever that is. But by far and away, the majority of our teams in the state have played and continue to play. We're in the tournament.
And Paul, again, you really have to give credit to the local school corporations and the communities who have done everything as proactively as they can to get through this.
Absolutely. We try to celebrate our school people on a daily basis here. There's no question that the real work being done is at the school level. They have to do the contact tracing. They've got to make sure the facilities are clean. They've got to make sure the kids are in their pods and so they can trace afterwards. And they got to make sure they're masked up and they take temps and ask the questions and they do all the work. And it's an ever-changing environment for them. It's not one of those things that you figure out what you're going to do and you keep doing that till the end of the year. they have to constantly adjust based upon what's going on in their communities. And we're seeing that this week with everything on the rise a little bit here in the state of Indiana, and our schools are stepping up, adjusting their protocols so they can operate safer than they ever have before.
And of course, football is so important to communities and the local high schools because it brings in revenue, not the level of revenue that they've experienced in the past, certainly, but and now we're getting ready to move toward the playoffs, and so that's also very encouraging.
It is. We're playing week 9 coming up this Friday night, and once we get through this week, then we'll have all of our fall sports. All of our fall court teams in tournament season, and we're happy to be there. And certainly revenue is something that we have to address. We have to have money to pay officials and buy uniforms and do things for kids. But the best thing about this is the time-honored tradition of showing up on a Friday night or in your soccer uniform and having your school name across your chest, and you'd be able to wear that and celebrate that and support that. That's such a small amount of time in your life that you get the opportunity to do that. And I did that when I was a high school student, and a lot of us did. And those are memories that you cannot recreate. And you have to do everything we can so kids get that opportunity to develop that memory that'll take them through the rest of their life. And we're very happy that kids can get that.
And Paul, just to make sure, Lucas Oil Stadium will still hopefully be the venue for the upcoming championship weekend over Thanksgiving, correct?
It is, and Assistant Commissioner Falcons has been working with Lucas Oil, and he's had a couple meetings already, and we'll continue to meet up until tournament time because, again, it's a fluid situation. We'll continue to adjust. We have an opportunity to learn a lot of things from the Colts and what they're doing there, and we're going to use some things learned and when they operate games, and we'll apply that to the state championship come Thanksgiving weekend.
And Commissioner, I know this weekend you're also, again, the calendar doesn't stop. You will be looking forward to putting out some guidelines for the upcoming winter sports season, including basketball, of course.
Yes, we've had a great partnership with the state health department. And as a matter of fact, I got off a phone call with Dr. Box and her team earlier this morning. They're looking at some winter guidance that the staff put together. Once we get once they get a chance to review that, we'll be pushing that out to schools. And what we're pushing out now is really sports specific and how you can operate a wrestling program and season safely, or a basketball game. And also gymnastics and swimming are included in the information that we're going to be pushing out. Hopefully it hits our schools tomorrow.
Well, Paul, we certainly appreciate you coming on the show. High school sports, so important, one of the ties that binds us all together. And so we wish you the best moving forward, and thanks for being with us. Good luck going forward.
Thank you very much. And Bill, thank you for doing what you do to promote high school athletics across our state.
And finally this week, the future may be now as we evolve into the age of high-tech smart machines and artificial intelligence. Add to that COVID-19's impact on the workplace. How will this affect Indiana's workforce, and what is higher education learning from the pandemic? We get answers from Lumina Foundation Chief Executive Officer Jamie Marasotis.
Human work in the age of smart machines. This is a great read, and as I was talking to someone earlier today, I think so timely and so important for the state of Indiana, a manufacturing-intensive workforce. When you talk about artificial intelligence and robotics, it's all very scary for a lot of people, especially in the manufacturing sector. Is that fear, if you will, well placed?
Well, on the one hand, it's true that work is changing. Governor Holcomb said in his 2018, I think, State of the State address that developing a 21st century workforce is the defining issue of the decade. And I think he's right. But the defining issue of the decade is not that we're going to simply change the kinds of work that we're doing because the machines are going to take our jobs. It's because fundamentally we are going to have to change what we do. We're going to have to do human work, the work that only humans can do. Because in this age of smart machines, our work isn't going to focus on the kinds of replicable tasks that machines can do, that the algorithms can do. We're going to have to do the things that make us human, our ability to be creative and empathetic, our ability to be compassionate, to be collaborators. Those are the things that will make a difference. And I'm an optimist. I think that we can make this transition in Indiana and around the country, because I think human work will ultimately define who we are as workers going forward.
You give lots of great examples, human examples in the book. One is Joel Lewis, who's an assembly line worker here in Indiana. Talk about his story and how that really fits into this future of work.
Yeah, so Joel, spent his career, two decades of his career, essentially stuffing pistons into Dodge Ram pickup truck engines. And he was sort of a classic worker. He worked in both Seymour and Columbus. And but along the way, the manufacturing process began to change. And Cummins actually developed these tools, these collaborative robots, they call them cobots at Cummins, which perform tasks side by side, literally, with the people working on the line. So Joel's job has changed very much as his coworkers have changed. The cobots are his coworkers. Joel now trains others in how to work with the cobots. He programs the cobots. So his job went from being one of a sort of classic manufacturing job to one where he is working side by side, collaborating with technology. So in some ways, technology might be scary to people, but in other ways, what we've come to recognize is that humans complement what machines do. And I think the Joel Lewis and the cobot story, I think, is an excellent example of that.
Got to get to this one because it's got great video of wrestler Rip Rogers, who really did reinvent himself, right?
Yeah, I mean, Rip is a really interesting example. Mark Ciara is actually his real name, and he was known as the Hustler as a professional wrestler. So, he did what professional wrestlers did, but the interesting thing about a professional wrestler is that they are highly creative. They've got to constantly reinvent themselves. That industry, the professional wrestling industry, is a category of people that I call creators. These are people who are highly creative, but who have very high levels of technical skills. Professional wrestling is it's funny to say, but it's a highly technical skill, much like a game developer might be, or a choreographer might be. And over time, he had to reinvent himself. Now, after his wrestling career, he's in his 60s now, he's actually training other wrestlers. He's written books. He's doing things like, he's got a podcast and other things. So he's reinvented himself as a human worker, and I think a fun but interesting way to think about.
Human Work in the Age of Smart Machines, a great read. Jamie Merisotis, hardcover, ebook, any way you want it, on Amazon, and I know it's #1 in several categories already. Congratulations on that, Jamie. We look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks very much, Garrett. Great to be with you again.
All right.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.